You know how great your house looks and smells when it's just been cleaned? So fresh. And somehow, a clean house makes your head feel fresher too. With a housekeeper from Care, you can reset your house and your head as often as you like for less than you think. Find a great housekeeper, set a schedule that works for you, and check cleaning off your to-do list so you can put your mind to other, more fun things. Get the housekeeping help you need at Care.com.
Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McKusick. We're here to continue our series of That One Play. And the one today is the greatest in my mind in Ravens history prior to the Mile High Miracle. It is the 2000 AFC Divisional Game, the block and return play. Keith Washington blocking at Anthony Mitchell on the return. Here to talk about that with me and his experience that day, for that matter, is Gil from Perry Hall. Gil, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Really glad to have you, Gil. Now, talk a little bit about why this is one of your favorite football memories and why the play you chose for this series.
Well, it's a great football memory for me and my wife because quite by happenstance, we won a radio contest on Mix 106.5, JoJo and Kenny in the morning. My wife happened to hear very randomly that they were having this and told me, and I called unbeknownst to her and got myself eligible to compete in the contest. They said, hey, one of the aspects is that you've got to be at this particular location at 7 o'clock in the morning on the Friday before the game. And can you get there at 7 o'clock? I said, well, where is it? And when they told me where it was a mile from my house. If you, as the crow flies, yeah, I could be there.
Yeah.
So the contest was an electric football game, and I didn't know that at the time. And from my childhood, I was electric football demon. And I said to my wife, I said, hey, I know the electric football. I know how to play this. And so what they did is they had a series of 20 contestants and did 2 10-person heats and had the fastest player to the end zone to win heats. And then they had us compete, the 2 winners of the 2 heats to, win the contest. Well, I do have to just take a moment to say that I knew that if you manipulate the tines underneath the football players, you can get them to move in certain directions. But if you sweep them back, that is the thing to do for speed. So I won the heat. And as I was going up against the other person, they competed, the 2 of us, by placing the 2 people on the field and having them compete against each other and going towards opposite end zones. Well, the first time they did it, both of the players ran into the wall and they scrubbed the contest. Then they had it do it again. And here's how improbable it was. And they were doing this live on the radio. Okay.
So that sounds like a wonderful story. That really does. The thing I've got that is a little bit similar to that. And, I don't want to one up the guest here, but one of the proud moments of my childhood was finding an electric football game in somebody else's trash. And I'm like, yeah, it was in an alley where we've always played ball. And I'm like, what's that? And, it's an electric football set. The trash. I'm like, who would throw away a treasure like this? It's just like,
Right.
Anyway, we grabbed that. Yeah.
So I'll make the long story short, but after they scrubbed the first one, they put the players on the field again, and the person I was competing against, their player went towards their end zone, and my player went up against the wall, and it looked like I was going to lose the contest. Then all of a sudden, their player circled around the field, touched my player, and pushed my player towards their end zone. Then peeled off. Their player went towards their end zone, circled around, came back, hit my player again, pushed it towards the end zone, their end zone, peeled off, circled around, came back and hit my player again, and then turned my player into to go into the end zone. I won the contest.
There you go.
We won round trip tickets, 2-night stay, 3 days, a limo to and from the game, and $50 spending cash. And we were off to Tennessee to go to our first away Ravens game. It was an
sweet.
awesome feeling.
So let's bring it back to the actual football here. That's a great story, though, Gil. Well worth the time here. So we obviously, being there is a lot of the fun in terms of this game. I've always appreciated being there in terms of the atmosphere of being at a win on the road. So that was certainly great. The Ravens offense didn't have anything going that day. Take us through a little bit of the game if you want to, right up to the point where it's 10-10 and Del Greco is setting up.
Well, the overwhelming thoughts for me were just the start of the game, where they fired up the crowd with on the big screen showing Billick, because if you remember, we beat them the first ever time in their stadium during the regular season, and it was his famous, they say they're the best team, but not on this day, not today. Yeah. So they played that. The crowd was fired up. So
they had a stolen playbook from Trent Dilfer, very famously. So the game itself, I'll basically lay this out here. So the opening touchdown to Eddie George.
Yes.
And that was on the very opening drive. So it certainly looked like this taunting the Ravens method that they used prior to the game was kind of playing out. And then the Ravens didn't do anything until they had the big play from Shannon Sharp, a 56-yard pass, I think it was, down the left sideline, went all the way to the 1-yard line, set up the Ravens' only TD, and frankly was the Ravens' only big play of the entire day. That was pretty much their offense. In the second half, they got the game tied up at 10 after a 14-yard run by Jamal Lewis, which literally might have been their second longest play of the day. They only had 5 or 6 first downs the entire game. Let me tell you, because this is one of these things. There's going to be people listening to this who don't have any memory of this game, and it's just so sad. 23-6 in first downs, the Ravens lost it. They went 2 of 11 on third down that day, and they had a grand total of 134 offensive yards to 317 by the Titans in the game. So the Titans completely dominated the game offensively, but the Ravens were still in it. The Titans primarily had blocked 2 punts from the Ravens, both by the same guy, and the Ravens had blocked 2 field goals, both by the same guy. First time that's ever happened in Ravens history. Keith Washington blocked both of those field goals.
Well, I'll tell you, when Al Del Greco lined up, the score was tied, and we're looking at it, and we're amongst a sea of Titans fans thinking that it's a very bleak moment because the game wasn't a lot of scoring, like you said, not a lot of offense by the Ravens, and he blocks the kick. In this sea of Titans fans, my wife and I, we jump up and we go, yes! Okay? And then we look down on the field and we see Anthony Mitchell grab the ball out of the air. Honestly, Ken, for as much as we loved the team, we had no idea who had just grabbed the ball.
Yep.
We just saw that it was a Raven. And we started jumping up and going, run, and he ran down the sideline and he got into the end zone, and we turned towards each other and we put our arms up and we're like, yes. And at that moment we realized nobody around us was cheering.
Life goes on.
Yeah, and it was at that moment that we realized we weren't in our own stadium, and that nobody around us were Ravens fans, and they were looking at us. And I can tell you honestly that the Titans fans that were there, I really felt, looked at us and were just like, you guys got so lost in that moment, and that they weren't upset, because we weren't being obnoxious. We were just enjoying the moment.
Enjoying the moment for yourself. And that's, good people can always accept that in road fans and do that. And I will just say the Titans fans of the entire NFL, we've been to every opposing team at this point. They are by far the nicest fans in the entire NFL. I'd recommend that for anybody's first trip. It's a nice, easy Southwest city to get there. So it's a great choice in terms of just a nice, easy flight to Nashville, easy to get tickets, generally speaking. The Titans fans are great. So they've never given us any trouble. I would not suggest going to Cleveland or Oakland. Pittsburgh is better. Cleveland or Oakland are the worst. So
understood. We experienced the same thing after that play, though. I can tell you that there was just quiet in the stadium because they were stunned that we had taken the lead. And so I can't remember if it was the next series or another subsequent series, but when they threw the little flare to Eddie George, and quite frankly, he bobbled it just a little bit, but Ray Lewis was on him like a pea in a pod and grabbed the ball from him and then scurried up the sideline. That happened right in front of our location, and he went into the end zone, and the air just totally came out of the stadium.
I think we had the same relativity to the field as you did, because all of the big plays were basically on that, what I would call the left sideline with the Ravens traveling with that wear. So I guess Shannon Sharp's play was in the second quarter. Ray Lewis's play was in the fourth quarter. And then the touchdown by Eddie George to start the game was on that side as well. Just and Anthony Mitchell ran by us going the other way is my recollection.
Okay.
How can that be?
Yeah.
That can't really be.
No,
I must have that wrong.
No, as I remember it, Anthony Mitchell was on, well, for me, as my perspective, Anthony Mitchell was on the far sideline, and was he going away from us? No, he was coming towards us. Yes. Okay. So we were he was coming to the end zone towards our left. Yeah.
Okay. That does make sense, because it has to be the same direction as Ray Lewis, because they're both in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
I wanted to point out one thing, because I've since had the good fortune at an autograph convention.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/post. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/post. That's ZipRecruiter.com/post. ZipRecruiter.com/post.
Did you know if you pay your nanny or sitter more than $2,400 a year or $100 a week, you owe taxes? Let Care.com HomePay help you get the tax savings your family qualifies for, up to $2,500 a year. Get your first month free at HomePay.com with the code FREEMONTH2022.
Do you like aliens, UFOs, cryptids, and the supernatural?
What about self-defecating humor?
Actually, it's self-deprecating humor. Well, you may both be right. Alien Theorist Theorizing is a comedy podcast that examines cases like
Roswell, Bigfoot, or the Atacama alien.
If any of these topics pique your interest, subscribe to Alien Theorist Theorizing free anywhere you find podcasts, or go to alientheorists.com.
To talk to both Keith Washington and Anthony Mitchell about that play in particular. And first thing, by the way, if you're setting up an autograph convention, have those two next to each other. It's the most obvious ball signing op. If you can get Aldo Greco at the same table, boy, you'd really have something. That would be a nice item. But Keith Washington and Anthony Mitchell is a great pair of signatures to have on a 2000 Ravens item of some sort. So anyway, Washington blocks the kick. It goes right up in the air. It was the second block kick of the game for him. The first trailed back into the end zone after being blocked and came to a stop and was, I think, placed at the 20 or not returned to the spot of the kick, which may or may not have been correct, but not getting into that for a second. What I was told by Mitchell is that if you can see him on the video running back to try and pick up the first ball, Rod Woodson says, no, don't touch that. After that's been blocked, it's like a punt. Don't block it. You might fumble it, and then you're on the hook for it. So he really knew. But the second time, you can see everybody on the field is giving him the safe sign. Don't go after that football when it's up in the air. Anthony Mitchell doesn't pay him any attention, catches it, right out of the air, and then immediately all of those players, Woodson and Harris in particular, went and turned and made productive blocks heading back up the field to help lead that convoy. Frank Wycheck probably could have made the tackle were it not for a good block on that on the return. And our view of that was very similar to you, because we didn't know who Anthony Mitchell was, and we saw either at field level or on the big screen, I can't remember which it was, that A. Mitchell was on the back of his uniform. And my wife turns to me and goes, A. Mitchell, as in implied question mark. And I wasn't the fan that I am today. And so I didn't know who Anthony Mitchell was either. I know he'd been on the team. I know now that he'd been on the teams, special teams, but he didn't play in any of the very DB heavy packages for the Ravens that year. So it was a very cool moment there. And Maureen still says that sometimes if I watch the play, she'll turn to me and she'll go, "Hey, Mitchell."
Gotcha. Yeah. We had no idea. In fact, after the play, we were like, who was that? And it took us a while to find out, I believe maybe by seeing a replay or something. And it was like, oh, okay, he's on our team, but yay. And then like the Ray Lewis play happened, and then, the game was over. The Titans fans, as I said, were very nice on the way out. They were congratulating us. We're walking down the ramps from the upper deck. They're telling us, hey, are you going to go to Oakland? And good luck beating the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And then outside of the stadium, we had a couple of really great moments, because we went outside of the stadium and we saw this crowd across the street from the stadium. And so we went over to the crowd to see what was going on, because we saw there were all these Ravens fans gathered. And we believe that it was, I think, Jane Miller, news personality from Baltimore.
Sure.
Yeah, that was talking to people on the street, Ravens fans on the street. And we saw that and said, oh, okay, that's nice. And then we saw another crowd of Ravens fans over by the stadium. And I said to my wife, hey, let's go over there and see what that's about. So we're walking across the street, and now, mind you, one set of Ravens fans this way, another set of Ravens fans this way. And as we're walking across the street back towards the stadium, I said to my wife, those two men standing there, I said, that's Ozzie Newsome. And cool. Yeah, and he was just standing there, and he had a stogie, and the other person that was standing with him was Ernest Biner. And although I didn't know that at the time, I knew that it was Ozzie Newsome. I didn't know it was Ernest Biner. And I walked up and I said, Mr. Newsome, is it okay to take a picture of you? And he said, sure. And so I got my camera out, and before I could get my camera up, Ernest Biner snatched the camera out of my hand.
Yeah, it takes the picture. That's great.
It says, you guys get in the picture. And so we got in the picture with Ozzie, got that up on the wall in my man cave downstairs.
Very cool.
And then we went over to the other group of Ravens fans just to see what was going on. They were by the ramp that comes from the underneath of the stadium. And all of the Ravens came out through that ramp, up out of the stadium. And Burnett, Siragusa, and
Sam Adams?
McCrary, came striding up the ramp. Okay. They had their fatigues on. And then what we realized is that the people that we were standing amongst were not only Ravens fans, but Ravens family members.
There you go.
Because we were standing right next to Peter Boulware's family, And I don't know if you've seen Peter Bulwere's brother, but he looks just like him. Okay. And then Peter Bulwere came up, he jumped over the railing, and it was just this very nice organic moment, because not only were they milling about with the family, they were milling about with all of the fans that were there. And we're just taking it all in, seeing this player and this player and this player, and they're signing autographs and they're talking, and there's the euphoria. And I said to my wife, I said, wow, we've got the limo waiting. Okay. And I said, I got to go talk to the limo driver to make sure that, because we're hanging out here, I don't want to, stress him out or, miss the ride or whatever. So I go around to the meeting point for the limo, and I see the driver, and he says, hey, take your time, no worries. And as I'm walking back, there's Priest Holmes sitting on a stanchion of the stadium, outside the stadium, all by himself. And so I walk up to him and I start talking to him. And I got a chance to talk to him for just a couple of minutes. I didn't want to leave my wife alone for too long, but I said to him at that time, and you think this is kind of crazy. I said, hey, I don't know what's going to happen next season, because we had the emergence of Jamal Lewis, and how the salary cap works. And well, I don't remember what the salary cap was at that time, but it was the likelihood that he was going to not be with the team. And I said to him, I don't care where you go. I like you very much. I'll root for you wherever you are. And he said, thank you very much for that. And then I went back and joined my wife, and we, gathered with all the Ravens fans, and then had a great night out on the town, in Nashville, which is a, great place
town
itself. Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like one of the all-time great road trips. It certainly was for us as well. And I'll just say, it was also our first road game. As I think back at this, it's our first road game we ever went to, and if only they could all be that good.
But, absolutely, as was for me.
That was very, very, very special. Well, Gil, thanks for coming on. Your story is great, and we ran a few minutes over, but definitely worth the time. One of the things I wanted to mention just real briefly is that the two plays are often compared: the Lewis touchdown on the interception and the Anthony Mitchell return. The Anthony Mitchell return came at a point where the game was in the balance. The change in win probability was enormous on that. It was a lot like the Hubbard recovery and return of the fumble at the goal line in terms of a change in win probability. The Lewis interception, it sealed the game, but it's nowhere big as play. And to the life of me, I cannot understand the generalized fascination with the Lewis interception over it. Any comparative, it seems to fans in Baltimore seem to have a much greater satisfaction with the Lewis interception return.
Oh, well, that there's one thing that's clear is that Eddie George was the villain, and that was just one of many moments in Ravens history where Ray bested Eddie George, and it was the proverbial nail in the coffin for them. And I will say this, that Titans fans are really nice, but in the lead up to the game, because of their previous history from the previous season, they were assured that they were going to win this game. There was no question, if you listen to their broadcasts and everything, revenge was on their mind, and they were making their way back to the Super Bowl. So it was pretty satisfying, and Ray is just the symbol of that. And so, but we hold the Anthony Mitchell play as the quintessential greatest play that propelled the Ravens along their way.
Yeah, that's the way it is for me too. Before the Mile High Miracle, I think it was definitely number one in terms of importance in Ravens history. And the Mile High Miracle probably eclipsed it. Some would argue the 4th and 5 play maybe eclipsed it. That's fine too. Don't have any problem with that. But Gil, really appreciate you coming on and talking about this with me. So where can people talk football with you, or maybe where can they hear you?
I call the radio programs from time to time. I really enjoy talking to Bruce Cunningham. I love his sports show, and you hear me talking to Bruce all the time, who used to be a former neighbor here in Perry Hall.
All right. Other folks out there, if you'd like to be on that one play, just like Gil here, please give me a DM on Twitter. They're always open. What play you want. There's a long list of plays, and there's an unbelievably long list of plays that haven't been taken yet. So there is some overlap. We need to get it cleared, but I'll be back to you very quickly. We'll record probably within a week. It's taken Gil and I a little longer, but some scheduling issues to work through there. But Gil, really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.
It's Ram season, which means it's time to serve with Ram 1500, Ram 3500, and Ram TRX. Ram, built to serve. And now, well-qualified lessees get a low-mileage lease on the 2023 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4 for $489 a month for 36 months with $3,465 due at signing. Tax, title, license extra, no security deposit required. Call 1-877-RAM-5722 for details. Requires dealer contribution, a lease through Chrysler Capital. Extra charge for miles over 30,000. Residency restrictions apply. Take delivery by 5/31/23.